Today we want to try and beat every single Pokemon champion, and there is a lot of them, as Blue from the Pokemon Manga. Blue has some really cool Pokemon on his team, and these are some of the Pokemon that we'll be using. I'll also try to keep his moveset as accurate as possible when possible. If he does manage to beat them all as 3 powerful trainers he must face to claim victory. If a Pokemon faints, it's gone from the whole run, and a few more rules added on for more difficulty. With that, can Manga Blue beat every Pokemon champion? First up is Pokemon Fire Red, and we have the champion for this game, Blue. He's also got some strong Pokemon that we have to deal with. Our problem is definitely our moveset, with some really bad move choices, and not strong ones at that, but let's see how we fare. Blue's lead is his Pidgeot, and we lead off with Charizard. Turn 1 we hit a Fiery Flamethrower for massive damage, bringing the bird to the red, as he throws sand in our face, lowering our accuracy. Blue 4 restores, healing his Pidgeot, but we bring it back down the next turn, and we get the burn on Pidgeot, bringing it even lower. Then Blue decides to double on us to Rhydon, allowing us to get off another big hit, doing exactly half. So I stay in and Flamethrower again, confident I'll take it down, but we don't. Thankfully we dodge a Rock Tomb, or that could have been a very, very early death. Not taking any chances, I now swap to Golduck, who takes a Rock Tomb a little better, and the next turn we can take down Rhydon with a Surf. This then brings out Blue's Executor, the 3-headed eggplant, and we swap back to Charizard as we get put to sleep. We then waste a few turns trying to burn off our sleep, while he just goes for a light screen, raising his team's special defense, and he throws eggs at us with Egg Bomb. Eventually we wake up though and just bring it low with a Flamethrower. He then misses an Egg Bomb, and the following turn Charizard gets to take him out. This brings out his ace Pokemon Blastoise, and we take the time to swap in Machamp to absorb the Hydro Pump, and we take it to over half. We then deliver a low kick to put Blastoise under half before a Hydro Pump puts Machamp on 26 HP. Citrus Berry activates, healing him, and this means we're not going to be able to take out Blastoise. So I go into Golduck as he still takes a bit of damage. Golduck then goes for a Confusion that critical hits as he sets up the Rain with Rain Dance. This boosts the power of our Surf now, so we surf on the waves and we take down Blastoise. Blue then sends out Pidgeot, who just insta-dies to his burn from earlier, and now is Alakazam. We swap into Rhydon, who gets absolutely decimated by a Psychic, so we've got to swap again. Now I go into our Cypher as he sets up a Future Sight attack on the swap. We then hit a massive slash, bringing Alakazam low before he hits a Psychic, doing good damage again. We then get to take out Alakazam with a slash, and this brings out his last Pokemon, Arcanine. We instantly then take the Future Sight attack from earlier, and that puts Cypher low. We now swap into Porygon, who traces Intimidate and intimidates him back. We then take a Flamethrower for close to half. We then take yet another Flamethrower to 19 HP before we hit a Stab Tri-Attack for a quarter of damage. Our only last healthy Pokemon is Charizard, who doesn't take an extreme speed that great on the swap, but we've got no choice. We get took lower as we fly in the sky, dodging attack, and landed on his head, putting him low too. I now look at my team, and Blue is just destroying us. We go into Rhydon, who tanks the extreme speed, and then Arcanine goes for a Flamethrower. We barely hang on, but we can hit an Earthquake to finish off the fight in what was an extremely close first battle. We could have lost many Pokemon here, but we persevered. It's time for the second champion. Lance is the champion of Johto, and the next we face. He's a Dragon type champion. We've got 0 ice moves, and that is his kryptonite. Honestly, this could be a rough fight again. I don't see many answers to his Pokemon, but let's do it. Lance's lead is Gyarados, and that's a really good matchup for our now evolved Porygon 2, as we have Zap Cannon, which we connect turn 1 for an easy first knockout. But then is his ace, a level 50 Dragonite. We Zap Cannon, critical hit, and paralyze Dragonite, and he gets hacked, so that is just a perfect turn. We then Zap Cannon once more, putting him in the red as we take a massive Outrage back. But a final Tri-Attack from our Porygon and we deal with this monstrous threat. But out comes Dragonite number 2. I'm playing it risky here as not many things can swap in, and I go for another Zap Cannon, and we miss, but he misses a Dragon Rush. We then land a Zap Cannon, paralyzing him, and he gets hacked. Okay, let's stop dancing with the devil. I swap into Rhydon, who eats a Dragon Rush, and then we can KO Dragonite with a single Rock Slide. This brings out his last Dragonite, and we go into Golduck on the Blizzard, and we eat it okay. I then Surf for a bit of chip damage, and we barely survive a Dragon Rush. Now we swap again into Charizard, who gets Dragon Rushed for massive damage. I play it risky, and I go for a Reflect, boosting our defense as we live the next attack on just a sliver. This is rough. I've got to swap, so I go into Machamp, and we dodge an attack luckily. Dragonite then goes for a Blizzard, and we miss our attack. Then we get Thunder Waved, activating Guts, but we get Parahaxed. Machamp then dodges the Blizzard and we critical hit a low kick for the knockout. Honestly, what is this fight? It's so RNG heavy right now. Out comes his Charizard. We go to Rhydon, who eats the air slashes, and we can take out Charizard with just a single Rock Slide, leaving just an Aerodactyl left. My team is pretty beaten, but we survive a crunch with Rhydon and we Rock Slide to take him out, barely scraping by. This is insanely rough. One wrong move and we lose Pokemon. How we are deathless so far, I have no idea. Let's keep it going though. In Pokemon Ruby, Steven is a champion. He's got mainly rock and steel types. We've got some solid answers to his team, so I'm not that worried. But the way this is shaping up so far, I don't know how this battle will go. Let's face the Hoenn champion. Steven's lead is Skarmory, and we lead off with Charizard, our best matchup into him. A single Fiery Flamethrower melts a Steel Bird, giving us an easy first knockout. But then is Claydol. Our only good answer, so to speak, is Golduck, who takes the Ancient Power on the swap pretty well. We then surf on the waves for massive damage, taking out Claydol in just one attack. This brings out Aggron, who's very frail and also falls to a single surf from Golduck. He's really putting in some work. Steven sends out his grass type Cradily. We Iron Tail for good damage, but not quite half, as he goes for a Confuse Ray, confusing us. I then swap into Machamp on the Giga Drain and we take it very nicely. Then we deliver a powerful Karate Chop to take him down. Steven then sends out his Ancient Bug, our Moldo, and while we do good damage to the Bug and Rock type, an Aerial Ace does huge damage back to us. I now decide to swap into our Scissor to eat the incoming Aerial Ace, and then we reply with a super effective Metal Claw and we get the stat boost. This brings out Steven's final Pokemon, Metagross, and we just really can't hurt it. A boosted Slash does nothing and an Earthquake brings us to below half. I decide to swap to Charizard on the incoming Earthquake, which we're obviously immune to, and with a Fiery Flamethrower we take down Metagross, beating Steven in thankfully an easier battle, but it's still one more champion in Hoenn left to face. Our second champion for Generation 3 is Wallace. He's a water type specialist with some powerful Pokemon. Porygon 2 might be very much needed here as he's the only one with good coverage. Wallace leads with a massive Wailord and we lead off with Porygon 2. Turn 1 is a bad turn as we miss our Zap Cannon, but Wailord also misses his Blizzard, so it's just a dead turn. Turn 2 we hit our Zap Cannon and Porygon 2 shows his raw power by taking down the mighty whale in a single attack. Next is his Tentacruel. We just keep Zap Cannon him, but Tentacruel is more bulky and survives it, but he does get paralyzed, and he hits us with a Hydro Pump for decent damage. Porygon 2 then gets to pick up a second knockout the turn after with a Tri-Attack. This brings out his Ludicolo and it could be a problem, so I go for a Tri-Attack and we get a Freeze. What is this RNG? Taking advantage of the freeze, I swap into Scizor. I then go for a Slash, but we don't take him out. This is bad because Wallace just goes for a full restore, removing the freeze and healing him. Now we just exchange Slashes and Surfs for good damage on both sides, as Wallace just keeps on burning through his full restores. But Scizor is a little bit too powerful for his Ludicolo, and we take him down with about 44 HP remaining. This brings out his Catfish, Whiscash. I go into Golduck as we take an Earthquake for nearly half. We then reply with a Surf for good damage as he goes for an Amnesia, raising his special defense. So this means our next Surf doesn't quite take him out and an Earthquake proceeds to bring us really low. Wallace now burns a full restore and our next Surf does pitiful damage. We've got to swap, so into Machamp I go as he keeps going for Amnesias. We Karate Chop for good damage considering, and then he Amnesias again. I go for a Focus Energy as he goes for an Earthquake, not doing too much to Machamp before we get to take him down with a Karate Chop. This then brings out a huge threat in Gyarados. We switch to Porygon 2 to get off the trace and reply with an Intimidates Lori's attack as he Dragon Dances. We then double into Charizard as he thankfully misses a Hyper Beam. Then I set up a Reflect 2 boosting our defense as he keeps on dancing. Back to Porygon 2 for another Intimidate and he's spamming Dragon Dance, probably about to sweep our team. But thankfully Porygon 2 lands a Zap Cannon and that's enough for a one-hit knockout on this massive threat. His last Pokemon is Milotic. I stay in and attack him with a Tri-Attack which does good damage and we take a Surf back in return. We then Zap Cannon for massive damage again, paralyze him too as he eats his berry, healing him. Wallace now full restores as we go for a Tri-Attack and then we go for another Tri-Attack to bring him to below half as another Surf puts us on only 5 HP. I now swap to Machamp who gets hit hard, but the next turn we can outspeed and finally take down Milotic with a low kick and another really tough battle. But with that we've beat Generation 3. It's time to ahead to Generation 4. Cynthia is the champion of the Sinnoh region. Her team is a powerful one. So far it's not been convincing, but we are pulling through. Can we defeat Cynthia's team? Let's find out. Cynthia's lead is Spirit Tomb and we lead off with Sinnoh for this fight. We exchange a Metal Claw and Dark Pulses, but we're doing more damage. We bring Spirit Tomb to the red before Cynthia gets off a full restore. We eventually take Spirit Tomb down, but Sinnoh is pretty weakened at under half HP. Second Cynthia goes into Milotic. We hit a slash for close to half as the Surf puts us on only 7 HP, that was close. We now swap into Porygon 2, who's been a fantastic Pokemon to use as we get hit with an Ice Beam. The next turn we outspeed, and unlike Wallace's Milotic, Cynthia's dies to a single Zap Cannon. This brings out her Lucario as her third choice. It's an easy switch to Charizard as we get hit by a pretty pathetic Aura Sphere. Then we can outspeed and fire off a Flamethrower for a one-hit knockout. This brings out her Togekiss. I stay in and Flamethrower once more, doing close to half as we take a Water Pulse, putting us low. Not risking Charizard, I need to go into Golduck on the incoming Water Pulse, which we take very nicely. The next turn we can hit a Surf to bring Togekiss low as we take an Air Slash to half. Cynthia cheats and full restores again as we just keep on surfing, bringing her back to the red as we sit on 24 HP. A final Surf takes down Togekiss, and this brings out her Roserade. On the incoming Shadow Ball I swap to Charizard, who also barely hangs on, and this is just insanely close every battle. We can Flamethrower to bring Roserade down, but her last Pokemon is a race, and that's Garchomp. I swap into Porygon 2, but a Dragon Rush just does way too much damage to me. I then go into Machamp, and an Earthquake does close to half to him too. The next Earthquake puts us on 11 HP as our low kick doesn't even do half to him. Our last healthy Pokemon is our newly evolved Rhydon, Rhyperior, but he's so weak to Garchomp, I think we might get swept. On the swap we get hit by a Brick Break for around 25%. Garchomp then hits a super effective Earthquake, but Rhyperior holds on with 82 HP and hits an Earthquake to bring Garchomp to just a sliver too. He then heals with his berry and I'm worried. The next turn he opts to go for Brick Break, but we survive on 2 HP and we can take him out with an Earthquake. If Garchomp didn't Brick Break them, we probably lost. This is such a tough run. Let's keep it moving though by heading to Gen 5. First up in Gen 5 is Alder, and he's got some solid Pokemon with a glaring weakness to fire with a few bugs on his team. Hopefully Charizard can put in some solid work here. Alder's leader Viselgor is a fantastic matchup for our Charizard to start with. A single Flamethrower toasts his first Pokemon and we're off to a good start. Second though is Bufalon, a powerful Pokemon. We go for a Reflect, boosting our defense as a Stone Edge just obliterates us, but we hold on thanks to the Reflect. We now swap into Scizor on the Stone Edge and it does practically nothing to us. We then start exchanging Metal Claws and Stone Edges as we're both doing roughly the same damage. We bring Bufalon to the red, which means Alder will definitely heal him. He full restores, but on our Metal Claw we get an attack raise, so our next attacks are doing significantly more. We take down Bufalon, but Scizor is now pretty crippled. This now brings out a Volcarona that can easily set up and do big damage to my team. We swap to Golduck as he goes for an Overheat, reducing his special attack stat but doing half to us. We then surf for big damage back as he sets up a Quiver Dance. Alder for some reason doesn't heal his Volcarona, and he doesn't attack us, so Golduck just picks up the KO. I'll take that. Now is his Scavalier. This thing's got Giga Impact and I can't risk Charizard just dying to it, so I decide to Sky Eyes move with Rhyperior, and he does in fact Giga Impact, and it does nothing to us. And then Earthquake doing massive damage to the bug, and Rhyperior then gets to take down a Scavalier. This brings out his Druddigon. It hits a pretty weak payback and Earthquake is just doing monstrous damage. We then get hit super hard by a superpower, bringing us low before we take him down with an Earthquake. This just leaves a Vanillix left to face. We swap into Machamp as he Flash Cannons us for small damage but lowering our special defense too. We then Karate Chop the Ice Cream to a sliver of HP as he sets up a Light Screen. But it's all in vain as a final Karate Chop takes down Vanillix, and with that we defeat our first Generation 5 champion. On to the next. Iris is the second champion and the majority of her Pokemon are dragons. Once again no ice coverage, but maybe Golduck can put in some work. Still deathless, so let's see how we match up. Iris's lead is Hydreigon and we lead off with Machamp. Turn 1 we take a Dragon Pulse to the face for good damage, but a single low kick obliterates a Darkened Dragon type. Then is Druddigon. We just low kick again, bringing him super low before we dodge a Focus Blast. Iris full restores, but we just keep on kicking her Pokemon, and Druddigon then eventually falls too. Third she sends out Aggron, who's 4 times weak to fighting, and he falls to a single low kick as well. Machamp has just swept half of Iris's team. But then is Archeops, which I thought she'd send out sooner, and we've got to swap, so into Rhyperior I go, who tanks the acrobatics. Then we tank a Dragon Claw before delivering a devastating Rock Slide to just take him out. out comes Lapras, and we gotta switch again. I go into Sinnoh, who takes a Surf to just above half, and we can deliver a Metal Claw as we dodge a Sing. We keep Metal Claw in, and we get the attack raise as she misses a Sing again. So we get off another Metal Claw for the knockout, and I didn't realise we went to +2 here. This brings out our ace Haxorus. We stay in and take an Earthquake, and a Metal Claw does fantastic damage, but we've got to swap or Sinnoh dies. I go into Charizard on the incoming Earthquake, which we take no damage from, then we outspeed and take her out with a Flamethrower. This gives us a pretty easy win over Iris. Now it's time to move on to the 3DS games and Kalos, where Mega Evolution awaits. Diantha is a champion of Kalos and who we take on next. Her team's pretty strong and she's got a Mega Gardevoir. Although, with having a Machamp and a Rhyperior and a Mega Charizard Y, we should decimate her. I hope. Let's do it. Diantha's lead is a fighting flying type Hawlucha, and we lead off with Charizard. As Blue in the manga had a Mega, we're going to Mega Evolve Charizard into Charizard Y, and our ability Drought sets up the sun boosting fire type moves. This means a single Flamethrower does enough damage to take down Hawlucha. Second out though is an immediate threat to us. Tyrantrum. There's no way with our moveset we can deal with it, so we've got to switch. I go into Rhyperior on the incoming Hedge Charge, which we take rather nicely. Then Tyrantrum goes for an Earthquake, doing good damage as our Earthquake in return just obliterates the T-Rex. This now brings out Gudra, a bulky dragon type. I stay in and luckily we dodge a Focus Blast, so that would have been the end of Rhyperior, and we deliver a huge Earthquake for the one-hit knockout. I'll take that. This brings out her Galgeist. I swap back to Mega Charizard Y, and unluckily for us it was the last turn of Sun, so we don't get to reset it up with our ability, and we take a pretty weak Seed Bomb too. However, the following turn we can just melt the plant with a super effective Flamethrower. This now brings out Aurorus, the Ice Dinosaur. Scizor is our best bet here as he's 4 times weak to Steel, and we take no damage as he just goes for a Light Screen on the swap. We then hit a super effective Metal Claw, taking down the Ice Dinosaur, leaving just one Pokemon left, and that's her ace Gardevoir. She Mega Evolves her Gardevoir, and I'm not worried as Scizor is in front of her. We outspeed, we hit a Metal Claw, and we just take out our ace in one swoop. Beating Diantha and become champion of Kalos, it's time to sail to Alola next. Hau is the person we fight to become champion here, and he's always one of the most trickiest. His team really does pack a punch. I'm scared, I won't lie, this could be our first effort to run, but Blue's team is slowly pulling it back. Let's do this. Hau's lead is an Alolan Raichu, and I lead off with Rhyperior. While it's a bad matchup due to it having Focus Blast, we need to remove this threat quickly. We take a Focus Blast to the face, barely hanging on before we deliver a devastating Earthquake for the one-hit knockout back to Raichu. Next out is Hau's Leafeon, and it's a pretty easy swap to Charizard, who takes a Leaf Blade nicely. Leafeon then Baby Doll's Eyes, reducing our attack stat, but we don't care about that, and we toast the evolution with a Flamethrower. Third out, he sends Crabominable, the Ice Crab. Well, it's weak to fire too, so we just stay in and Flamethrower again, and down he goes. So far, so good. But this is a huge threat now in Tauros. I stay in with Charizard and we take a Double Edge, putting us in Blaze territory as he takes Recoil, and this allows us to take him out with a Flamethrower, putting in some really good work from Charizard. Hal then sends out a Noivern, and I swap into Scizor as we dodge an Air Slash. We then take an Air Slash for about half and we slash back at him for good damage. We take yet another Air Slash, putting us in the red before we bring him very low with Metal Claw. I now have to swap, but Hal swaps before me and takes out Noivern and sends out his Incineroar as we go into Porygon 2. Now I just immediately go into Machamp, who takes a Flare Blitz but not that well as he takes Recoil too. However, Machamp is a powerful Pokemon and we deliver a low kick to the face to take him out. This just leaves a weak Noivern left for us to face. He's going to heal, I just know it, so I play it risky and stay in as he does in fact go for a full restore, allowing us to get off some solid damage with a Slam. Now though, we definitely have to swap, and into Porygon 2 I go as he hits Air Slashes on the swap, but we tank it decently. Noivern then Dragon Pulses Porygon 2, bringing him low, and a Tri-Attack takes down Noivern, beating Hal, and beating him deathless too. What a good battle. Now it's time to move on to the Switch games. So for Trace, we've got a full team of strong Pokemon with randomized AVs, so I have no idea how strong we are. We've had to de-evolve Rhyperior, Porygon, and Scizor for this fight though. The battle starts off with Trace leading with Pidgeot, and we lead off with Rhydon. It's a great matchup for us as an Air Slash really doesn't do much, but he flinches us, so that sucks. We then get hit with another Air Slash, and we get flinched again for the second time. Then we get hit from a third Air Slash, but we finally connect an attack to take down his first Pokemon. Second out comes Vileplume. It can't really hurt us straight away as it just starts to set up a Solar Beam, and Rhydon's Earthquake brings him to the red. Not risking just dying to this attack, I swap into Charizard, who eats it like a champion he's been. It doesn't even scratch us. Now we can Mega Evolve again, as Trace decides to full restore up his Vileplume, but it's definitely in vain as Mega Charizard's Wise Flamethrower is far too powerful and down he goes. This brings out his ace in Jolteon. I'm pretty worried about a potential Thunder attack, but I'm gonna play it anyway. Luckily he misses and we connect a flamethrower, bringing him low. I stay in again and we dodge yet another one of his thunders and we take down Jolteon. His next Pokemon is Slowbro, and thanks to a pretty bad moveset we can't really do big damage. I tried to go for a flamethrower, but it doesn't do that much as a surf does about the same back to us. I just keep on firing off flamethrower after flamethrower as he does surf after surf. We bring him down to a sliver and we're pretty weakened too. Now is the time to swap. We go into Porygon as Trace uses a full restore on Slowbro, healing him. Now I just spam Thunderbolts and we're doing great damage as Slowbro sets up a light screen. I Thunderbolt once more and now Slowbro finally falls. Next out is his Marowak. I stay in and go for a tri-attack for a little bit of damage, but we do snag a burn, reducing his attack stat as we take practically nothing from a Brick Break. It's an easy swap to Golduck now for Marowak as we take 0 damage on the switch in. With a surf on the waves we can take down his ground type, leaving only one Pokemon left to face, and that's a Rapidash, but it's also weak to Golduck too, and with a final surf on the waves we knock out Rapidash, and with that we beat Trace and become champion of Canto once more. It's time to go to Galar next. The champion for Sword and Shield is Leon. His team is really strong with a Gigantamax Charizard. We can also utilise Dynamax here to maybe do some big damage, but this fight can go either way. Leon's lead is his Aegislash and I lead with Charizard for this. Most of the time Aegislash goes for a King Shield, and yep, he does it again. So turn 1 is just a dead turn. Turn 2 we connect our flamethrower doing massive damage, but it survives with just a sliver of HP, and with that it can get off a super hard Shadow Ball to our Charizard. Then Aegislash decides to just be an annoying Pokemon as usual by going for a King Shield, delaying the inevitable. The next turn we can flamethrower once more to just bring him down. This brings out Dragapult, and we swap into Rhyperior as we absorb the Thunderbolt thanks to our ability Lightning Rod, so we take no damage. Dragapult then hits us with a Shadow Ball for good damage as our Earthquake just obliterates a Ghost and Dragon type. Then is Inteleon, and my team cannot deal with this at all. The only one that can is Porygon 2, as we swap in on the Snipe Shot that still does over half to us thanks to a critical hit. This is bad. The only option I have now is to Dynamax. By doing this it gives us a little bit of HP back, hopefully enough to live the next Snipe Shot, and it is just about. This means we can retaliate with a Max Lightning to just get rid of this huge threat to the team. Out comes Haxorus. Unfortunately, we can't stay in and utilise Dynamax anymore, and we swap into Scizor as we're immune to his Poison Jab. We take an Earthquake then for a good chunk of damage as our Metal Claw is doing roughly the same back to him. Not risking now the incoming damage roll, we swap into Charizard on the Earthquake to negate it, a strategy I've used quite a lot in these champion runs. Then we can outspeed and Flamethrower to take down his Dragon. This brings out Mr. Rhyme, the dancing Mr. Mime. Thanks to it being Ice type, it can't lift a Charizard's pure power and falls to a Flamethrower too. This leaves Leon with only one Pokemon left, Charizard. But it can really do damage to my team. We're going to have to stall out his Gigantamax turns. So on the turn he Gigantamaxes, I swap into Machamp to absorb the Max Rockfall, which does practically nothing to us, and it sets up a Sandstorm, so we both take chip damage. Then on the incoming flying move, Max Airstream, we swap into our Golduck, who takes it, but not very well, and then we both take a little bit more chip damage. This now means a Grass move, Max Overgrowth, is coming our way. I go back into Machamp, who also takes this hit, but not too well either, putting us low, as we both take some more chip damage. Then we get Max Overgrowth's second effect, Grassy Terrain, which heals us a little bit. Charizard will definitely now Air Slash, so we're free to go into Rhyperior as he does, and we take it like a champ. We heal a little bit more thanks to the Terrain too, and Charizard then goes for a Solar Beam that he thankfully can't charge instantly, and Rhyperior can take him down with a single Rock Slide, beating Leon deathless too. With that done, we've only got one champion in our way. The last champion is Geeta for Generation 9, and she's got some really unique Pokemon. We've had to substitute in Executor for Machamp as he's not in these games. Can we defeat her and beat every Pokemon champion as Blue from the manga? Let's find out. Her lead is a Sparfer and our lead is Charizard, and the model just looks so good. We hit a Flamethrower for big damage and we take a Lumina Crash in return, reducing our special defense. But this doesn't matter as the final Flamethrower takes care of the Psychic Ostrich. Next out, she sends King Gambit for some reason, probably because of Stone Edge. But we don't need to swap, we just hit another Flamethrower to melt the Bisharp evolution in one move too. Her next Pokemon though is Veluza, so we go into Executor for the first time. We showcase our power instantly by taking down the Psychic Fish with a single Giga Drain. Fourth Geeta chooses a bulky Ice Slab Avalugg. Well, it's not that bulky on the special side, and Charizard showcases this again by melting it with a Flamethrower. Then Geeta goes into Go-Go. It's another easy matchup for our Fire Pokemon who's just decimating her. And down goes Go-Go, that's a tongue twister, to a Flamethrower, leaving her last Pokemon and her ace, Glamora. I swap into Golduck as Geeta terastallizes into a pure Rock type, and we take a massive Sludge Wave. I now have to swap again, so I go into Scizor as Glamora goes for a Terra Blast that also just does massive damage. damage. So we swap again, this time into Rhyperior, who takes the Terra Blast a lot better. We have to hope we survive an Earth Power, and we do just barely on 21 HP, that was close. Then we can take it down with an Earthquake, beating Geeta and beating every single Pokemon champion as Blue from the manga. Or have we? Atop of the snowy Mount Silver is a legendary trainer Red, and a champion trainer at that. Also, with the final 3 bosses in front of us, I've upgraded our moveset to showcase our Pokemon's true power. We don't mess around and Rhyperior takes a massive Iron Tail off Pikachu instantly, but we retaliate with our own Earthquake to take down his ace. Second, he chooses Lapras, and we've got to swap. I go into Machamp as we take a Blizzard nicely. We then miss a Cross Chop and we take a Psychic, putting us super low, and after hail damage, we're at a sliver of HP. I now go into Scizor, who takes a Blizzard okay too, but we're just getting weakened. I hit a Metal Claw for small damage, and a Brine plus Hail is really hurting us. I then roost off the HP, but it's a losing battle for us. I go for a U-turn and it does massive damage, and we get a free swap into Porygon 2 on the Brine. Red full restores up Lapras as our Thunderbolt just brings him straight back down. A final Thunderbolt attack, and down he goes. This then brings out Blastoise. No reason to swap, we just Thunderbolt again, taking him to about 25% as the Blizzard brings us low too. A final Thunderbolt and Blastoise is down as well. Now out comes Snorlax, who is an incredibly bulky Pokemon, and we swap into Charizard. I hit an Air Slash for good damage, and we snag a flinch. We Air Slash again, and flinch him again. Perfect. Our third Air Slash just misses out on the KO. We get hit from Blizzard, and we get froze as Snorlax lives on only 1 HP after Hail. Red now full restores, and I try to thaw out of our Frozen, but we never do, and we go really low. I swap to Golduck on the incoming Blizzards, and we tank it nicely. Then all we can do is start Focus Blasting. We hit our first Focus Blast, then we take a Crunch to put us below half. We then hit our second Focus Blast to take down his Snorlax. Out next is Venusaur. Our team is actually pretty battered. I go into Scizor on the Sludge Bomb, which we're immune to. We then go for a Roost to restore our HP as we get put to sleep with Sleep Powder. I now just Burn turns to sleep as he Frenzy Plants us, and we're taking Hail damage and Frenzy Plants over and over. We eventually wake up, go for a U-turn, do absolutely massive damage, and swap into Rhyperior as Venusaur just falls to the damage. This brings out Charizard as his last halt. Rhyperior lives a Dragon Pulse with ease, then delivers a Rock Slide to take down Red's Firestarter, and we defeat him. He disappears and we can continue. Team Plasma and a champion himself. He's also got a legendary we need to win to continue. N leads with Reshiram, and Rhyperior is our best shot here. We take a Fusion Flare, but not well at all, before we take down the legendary with a single shake of the earth. Second is Caracosta, and we can't stand to the Water Turtle as I swap into Machamp on the incoming Waterfall. We then Cross Chop, bringing him to his sturdies. We take a Waterfall, putting us low too. N uses the full restore, but it's in vain as we bring him back low with a Cross Chop. The next turn, we just take down his Water Turtle. Third is Klinklang. Well, it could be Zoroark, and I can't risk Machamp. I go into Scizor as he goes for a Hyper Beam, which means it's probably Klinklang. We then Bug Bite, but it is Klinklang for sure as he's recharging. The next turn we go for a U-turn and we go into Charizard and we get hit by a Metal Sound, reducing our stats. A single Fiery Flamethrower though, and we melt this steel Pokemon. Then is Archeops, and into Rhyperior we go to tank the incoming Stone Edge. I then decide to double into Golduck as we tank a Dragon Claw. Then we outspeed and take him down with a Surf. Next is his trusty Zoroark. We both miss Focus Blast. That's great. Golduck then actually connects a Focus Blast, and with that we take down Zoroark. This brings out his last Pokemon, Vanillix. We connect yet another Focus Blast, bringing him extremely low as he sets up the Hail, which chips away at us a little bit and heals him a tiny tad too. Doesn't matter though, as Golduck can finish the fight strong the following turn with a Surf, defeating N of Team Plasma and leaving just one champion left to face. Kieran, the most latest champion to be introduced and one of the hardest. This has a focus on double battles. Honestly, we've done well, 0 deaths up to this point, but can we beat this final champion? Let's find out. But look at my character, he seems to have malfunctioned and he looks like some sort of weird Terminator. I've never seen this before, but I'm just gonna go with it. Kieran leads with Politoed and Dragonite with an emphasis on a rain setup. We lead off with Charizard and Porygon 2. The reason being with Charizard is I want to set up the Sun as it's a great answer to his strategy. So that's what we do. Charizard sets up a Sunny Day and Porygon 2 goes for an Ice Beam, doing great damage into Dragonite and breaking his multi-scale. Politoed then goes for a Weather Ball, which is now Fire type into Charizard, and we resist it. Dragonite goes for a Thunder, but no rain means he luckily misses it. The following turn, Charizard air slashes Politoed for good damage, and Porygon 2 takes down Dragonite with an Ice Beam, and that's a good start. Politoed chips away at Charizard again with a Psychic, bringing him low, but this brings out a huge threat in Porygon Z. It always nukes my Pokemon every time, nothing has ever survived. However, this time its Hyper Beam doesn't take out our bulky Porygon 2, and Charizard hits a sun boosted flamethrower, taking him to a sliver of HP as Porygon 2 takes him out with a Tri-Attack. Then Politoed Ice Beams our Charizard, and he's still barely hanging on, refusing to die. Opting to not switch and just keep beating down on Kieran's team, out comes Incineroar. We get faked out on Charizard, still surviving as Porygon 2's Tri-Attack does good damage to Incineroar, but our first inevitable death of the run comes at the hands of Politoed as he takes down Charizard with an Ice Beam, RIP. We send out Rhyperior next, and Porygon 2 Tri-Attacks Incineroar again as he activates his Citrus Berry, healing him. Politoed's Weather Ball then causes our second death of the run as it takes out Porygon 2. Been a fantastic Pokemon, RIP as well. Incineroar Flare Blitzes Rhyperior in the sun for good damage, as Rhyperior then hits an Earthquake to take down his Incineroar and put a big dent in Politoed. My next choice is Scizor as he sends out the Dark and Fairy type Grimmsnarl. We Bullet Punch Grimmsnarl for over half as he sets up a Reflect boost in the team's defense. Politoed sidekicks Scizor, which does practically nothing as Rhyperior hits a pretty weak Rock Slide, bringing them both low. The following turn, Scizor gets to take down Grimmsnarl with a Bullet Punch as Politoed goes for an Ice Beam that Rhyperior actually survives before taking down Politoed with a Rock Slide. This puts us in a fantastic position going into his last Pokemon and his ace Hydrapple. Kieran terrestrializes Hydrapple into a pure fighting type as our Bullet Punch does nothing thanks to Reflect, and Hydrapple kills Rhyperior with an Earth Power, RIP. With 3 deaths, I now go into Golduck, who has access to Psychic. We Psychic Hydrapple, bringing him to half as Scizor hits a U-turn, which allows us to then swap into our Executor. With both of our Pokemon having access to Psychic, there's no way we can throw this away now. Hydrapple goes for a Terra Blast into Executor and it doesn't bother him at all. Golduck then Psychics Hydrapple, bringing him to a sliver before Executor gets a killing blow of the run on Hydrapple, beating Kieran and beating every single Pokemon champion as Blue from the manga. So, 3 deaths for this run. That is insanely good considering the start we had and how rough it was with the moveset we had to endure too. Blue is just a strong trainer with a very good team. If you got any suggestions on who you'd like to see next, let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here as we recently hit 5k subscribers. I can't thank you enough. It means the world. As always, I appreciate you watching and I'll see you in the next one.